Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the issue of bureaucrats after retirement joining new private jobs. What are the rules, procedures and guidelines that govern this particular scenario, and what is the cooling off period that is required or that officer has to first spend before joining any private sector. So let us try to understand about this in more detail. So first of all, the context in which we are discussing today's issue is because recently Archana Goyal Gulati, who was an officer of 1989 batch belonging to the Indian Posts and Telecommunication Account and Finance Services (IPTAFS), has joined Google recently as a chief of public policy. She took voluntary retirement from the civil services, and she earlier also has served in the Niti Aayog as joint secretary or advisor in ICTs and infrastructure, the Department of Telecommunication, as well as at the Competition Commission of India. So since she was serving in this department and this department have issued certain notices to the Google, the issue is about conflict of interest which might arise because she was in the, at the same time she was in these organizations and she was taking actions also against Google, and now she has joined the Google. So however, the as far as laws and legalities are concerned, she had completed the 1 year cooling period that is required as per the law before taking up any kind of post-retirement job in the private sector. So let us try to understand the nitty-gritty of these particular situations. So if you look at the cooling off period that every person, every retired officer, government India, central government officials have to serve, has been mentioned in the All India Services Death Cum Benefit rules for the All India Services officers. If to remind you, All India Services consist of 3 different services, that is Indian Administrative Service (IAS), Indian Police Service (IPS), and the Indian Forest Service, that is IFS. At the same time, all other central services, like for example Indian Audit and Account Services, Indian Revenue Services and such, they are governed by central services pension rules. So AIS Death Cum Benefit Rule or DBR Rule 26 clearly mentions that if any official after retirement want to join any private job, he need to make sure that he has taken approval from the government department or the department in which he or she was posted. So basically this rule restricts a pensioner from commercial employment for 1 year after retirement except with the government sanction. Now CCS pensions rules rule now also mention that any commercial employment before the expiry of 1 year term from the date of retirement of the officer, he or she must seek previous sanction of government to such acceptance. That means, to make it clear, up to 1 year, if any retired officer want to join commercial employment, he or she has to take the permission from the government. However, after 1 year, without permission also, they can join any commercial employment. Now, in cases of a cooling off period, earlier it was 2 years until amendment was made in January 2007. So up to January 2007, the public official or government officer has to wait 2 years after retirement to join the government, join the private sector. But now only 1 year is required. Suppose if terms of non-compliance is concerned, suppose if a government servant has or retired government servant has joined the private sector without completing 1 year of cooling period, then what will happen? In that case, he or she shall not be entitled to the whole or such part of pension and for such period as may be specified by the government order. Mainly the reason behind cooling off period is to reduce the conflict of interest which might arise by as the government official might be discharging his duties at the, during the time when he was working in the government, and also after retirement if he or she is joining the private sector, then he or she might be inclined to favor the private sector or private companies, specific private companies, in one or other way. Now what is the term that is called as the post-retirement commercial employment? So the post-retirement commercial employment has been defined as employment in any capacity, including that of an agent in any company or a firm, in any cooperative society, or in the individual or as an individual who is taking part in any kind of trading or business activities. However, there are certain exceptions. The exceptions are that such employment which are under a body corporate which are wholly or substantially owned or controlled by the state government or central government. These employment positions do not come under the commercial employment, and thus a public servant, government servant is barred from joining these organizations. He or she can only join these private organizations. Apart from that, the second provision also says that he or she after retirement or after completion of 1 year is also free to set up any practice either independently or as a partner of a firm, as advisor or a consultant in certain matters that has been specified under the government rules. Now the question comes that can government turn down such request if within a period of 1 year of if any government servant want to join the private enterprises. So here there are certain steps that has to be followed. The government official have to take a no objection certificate from the cadre controlling authority of which services he or she was part of. Second, the government can also turn down such request if the government official was privy to certain sensitive or strategic information in the last 3 years of his service that is directly related to the work of the organization that he proposes to join. The third ground of refusal can be on the basis of conflict of interest. If the conflict of interest arises between the policies of the office he has held in the last 3 years as well as the interest and work of the organization. For example, to make it clear, suppose a public servant was working in the Department of Technology, DOT, and he has that during that time made certain policies that might be favorable to certain telecom agencies, and later on after retirement within a period of 1 year he or she wants to join the same organization. So there might be an issue of conflict of interest, and that is something that has to be taken care of, that has to be reduced. And fourth is government can also bar or turn down the request of joining private sector if such private companies are involved in the process or in the sectors areas of intelligence gathering, if such private sectors have been involved in certain areas where the foreign relations of India can be affected or national security and domestic harmony can be impacted. So these are the 4-5 cases where government can turn down the request of retired public official to join the private sector. Now this is about joining commercial sector, private sector. Now what about the guidelines regarding joining of politics after the retirement? So here we have the Civil Services Conduct Rule, and there is a Rule 3 sub clause 1. This rule clearly says that every government employee shall at all time maintain political neutrality. That means they should not favor any one political parties or any other political parties. They should be politically neutral and commit himself to and uphold the supremacy of the constitutions and democratic values. So 3 important conduct rules are there. First, political neutrality. Second, constitutional supremacy, and third is upholding of democratic values. However, there is as such there has been the Central Services Rule or Conduct Rule, Civil Services Conduct Rule do not bar any civil servant from joining politics after retirement. During like working or during his job as a government servant, he or she is barred from being affiliated with any political parties, but after retirement he or she is free to do so even just after 1 day of retirement. In this manner, it was the Election Commission of India in the year 2013, they sent a suggestion to DOPT as well as Ministry of Law that there should be certain cooling off period also for the joining of politics for a civil servant. However, this was turned down, and DOPT and Ministry of Law says that that particular cooling off period will be violative of Article 14 and thus will be struck down by the court later. So what is the present case? So present case of this particular official is not legal, we can say is not illegal, as he has joined the Google after the end of cooling off period of 1 year. However, the problem arises because he was working in the Competition Commission of India, and it was the CCI that has alleged the Google that Google was involved in abuse of dominance in news aggregation, and also Google is forcing unfair terms on digital news publication. And this allegation was made by CCI the same year when the concerned official was also working in the CCI. At the same time, CCI also has published initial findings of case against Google where it termed the Android Honors billing system for app developers is unfair and discriminatory, and that is why we have the conflict of interest rises, because when C was working in CCI and CCI was taking actions against Google, was trying to investigate into Google, and now just after 1 year of retirement C joined Google. So this is something that need to be avoided. So that is all about the present case. So what we can say in conclusion, that as far as the legal terms are concerned, legality is concerned, she has not broken any law, but there might be a potential conflict of interest case here as CCI, between CCI versus the Google. So that is all about this particular issue. Thank you very much.